WWE SmackDown benefited greatly from having a live crowd in attendance. The fact that the show started with John Cena added greatly to the proceedings. John Cena vs Roman Reigns feels like a big-ticket feud, and so does Edge vs Seth Rollins. There is almost a road to WrestleMania feel to WWE SmackDown, which is amplified by the fact that crowds are red hot. That said, not much happened on the show this week until the very end, did it? How much would you rate WWE SmackDown on a scale of 1 to 10, and do you think it was a worthy Money in the Bank Fallout episode? Feel free to share your thoughts, opinions, and insights in the comments section. Do you think the idea of conducting shows from two venues is a good idea? Number 3, Best. WWE SmackDown superstar Baron Corbin is clearly a babyface now. WWE SmackDown got Baron Corbin's booking all wrong on last week's show. If the plan was to turn him babyface, why did he then face off against Kevin Owens, one of the most popular babyfaces in the entire brand? That said, what happened on this week's show was perfect. Owens played the Good Samaritan on this week's show, offering his earnings to help out Corbin. But Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode would crash the party and set up what looks like a tag team feud. Baron Corbin and Kevin Owens would make a really entertaining tag team, and they could have a great feud with the Usos. The big question for the WWE SmackDown creative staff is whether the audience will accept Baron Corbin as a babyface or not. The crowd does seem invested in the story, and it's so different from Corbin's earlier character that it, at least, feels fresh. Number 2, Best. The big WWE SmackDown swerve at the end. Every WWE SmackDown fan was stunned when they learned about Roman Reigns' favorite position. However, the real surprise would come after that. Finn Balor would step out and challenge Reigns to a big match. Balor had already competed on WWE SmackDown earlier in the night, which made this a really surprising twist. This match is likely to take place on the road to SummerSlam, most likely in an episode of WWE SmackDown, and something along the way would get Reigns to accept Cena's challenge. Number 2, Worst. Everything at Rolling Loud Festival. Something about the two pro wrestling matches at Rolling Loud Festival just felt a little off. The audience did not seem to know or care about the WWE SmackDown characters who competed. It would have perhaps been a better idea to have Edge or John Cena there, who are household names. That said, the return of Montez Ford to the Blue brand is a really good sign, and will only bolster the WWE SmackDown Tag Team division immensely. Number 1, Best. Paul Heyman sings John Cena's iconic theme song. Listen, John Cena kicking off the proceedings was a lot of fun, but the highlight of the show has to be Paul Heyman singing his theme song. Two masters of the microphone jousting verbally in front of a packed WWE SmackDown audience. It really doesn't get any better than this. Number 1, Worst. An underwhelming WWE SmackDown debut. Zelina Vega has just been racking up the losses since she's returned to WWE. No investment has gone into her character, and the fact that she didn't even get an entrance speaks volumes for her place in the company. The WWE SmackDown crowd, which was hot for the rest of the show, did not care for this match. Toni Storm's first real outing on WWE SmackDown was a pretty underwhelming affair overall. Randy Orton has been away from WWE television for the past month, with his last appearance being on the June 21st episode of Raw. There hasn't been much word over his absence, but a recent report indicates that Orton could be back fairly soon. The Viper's last appearance on Raw saw him lose a Money in the Bank qualifying match to John Morrison. His name has remained prominent on the show, though. Riddle is keeping his storyline with Randy Orton going, which came to fruition following this year's WrestleMania event. Sean Ross Sapp recently reported on Fightful Select that Orton has been on WWE's disabled inactive list for the past month, although no concrete reason was given for his disappearance from weekly programming. The report stated that there aren't any issues between the 14-time world champion and WWE, with both sides hoping that he will be back in time for the August 2nd episode of Raw, which is 3 weeks before SummerSlam. Sapp further reported that WWE had creative plans for Randy Orton and Riddle through SummerSlam, which were changed due to the unforeseen circumstances involving Orton. If the Viper is able to return to Raw at the start of August, as hoped, he will probably link back up with Riddle. While the initial creative plans have not been revealed, 3 weeks seems like enough time to build towards a Raw Tag Team Championship match featuring Riddle and Randy Orton. A title bout pitting them against AJ Styles and Omos fits the marquee nature of the biggest event of the summer, which will take place at the Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. What do you think will happen next in the storyline between Riddle and Randy Orton? Once the latter returns to action, comment down and let us know. 10-time world champion, The Rock is reportedly set to return to WWE for this year's Survivor Series pay-per-view. Arguably one of the biggest names in WWE history, the Brahma Bull's return would surely be a huge booster for Vince McMahon's promotion. On the latest Mat Men Pro Wrestling podcast, Andrew Zarian reported that the company is planning to have The Rock at Survivor Series 2021. He added that the USA Network wants him on Monday Night Raw before revealing that The Rock's return won't be limited to a particular brand as he'll go everywhere, possibly floating between Raw and SmackDown. I can tell you, USA Network tentatively wants him on that Monday. By the way, he's gonna go everywhere. This isn't like a Raw storyline. He's going to be on everything, said Andrew Zarian. WWE is using a similar idea with John Cena's current run. He is scheduled to appear on both Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown as well as on WWE Live events in the build-up to his SummerSlam match against Roman Reigns. The company is advertising this as the summer of Cena. However, The Rock might not be making as many appearances as Cena. WWE Survivor Series 2021 will be a monumental occasion for the most electrifying man in all of pro wrestling. It will mark The Rock's 25th anniversary since his debut, and WWE could very well build the show around him, similar to how they did with The Undertaker in 2015. There are rumors that WWE is also planning to have him wrestle in some capacity at Survivor Series. Andrew Zarian stated that he hasn't heard of any such plans. In a recent tweet, he wrote that he doesn't expect The Rock to wrestle at the pay-per-view. Adding to this, since so many people asked me, I don't expect him to wrestle at Survivor Series. It's also the 25th anniversary of his WWE debut, wrote Andrew Zarian in his tweet. Fans are hoping for The Rock to confront the Universal Champion Roman Reigns at Survivor Series. The two real-life cousins could then kickstart a feud, leading to a one-on-one dream match. Comment down, and let us know your thoughts on The Rock's rumored WWE return. Updates on Braun Strowman's future have dominated the wrestling world since his unforeseen WWE release in June. As we had reported earlier, unlike most released stars whose merchandise gets taken down from the WWE website, Strowman recently received new merch options that hinted towards his return. Dave Meltzer confirmed WWE's interest in getting Braun Strowman back in the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Here's what Meltzer revealed in the one. There is interest in bringing Strowman back, especially after recent AEW signings. It should be noted that there is just interest at this point as WWE continues to transition back to shows full of fans. WWE officials also seem to be keeping a close eye on AEW as Tony Khan has made some significant moves of late. The signings of Malachi Black, Aleister Black, Christian Cage, Andrade, Paul White, Big Show, and Mark Henry have bolstered AEW's diverse roster. The latest rumors suggest that Daniel Bryan and CM Punk are on their way to AEW, and the rumored signings could bring about a legitimate shift in power in the pro wrestling landscape. WWE has released several superstars during the COVID-19 pandemic, but the promotion has also shown intent in getting a few former stars back into its fold. Zelina Vega recently returned to WWE after a highly publicized battle over WWE's third-party regulations. Braun Strowman is arguably the biggest name to have been fired by WWE in recent times. The former Universal Champion has kept himself active on social media since his release, constantly posting updates about his physical progress. Strowman also reacted to a WWE update regarding Goldberg, which did its job of keeping his name in the limelight. As confirmed by Mark Henry last month, Strowman is reportedly interested in doing business with AEW, but the Hall of Famer noted that any possible negotiations could only happen in mid-August. Vince McMahon might not like the idea of seeing Strowman in All Elite Wrestling, and the reported interest could lead to WWE re-signing the former Raw Tag Team Champion. What are your thoughts on the latest Braun Strowman update? Should WWE work towards rehiring the monster among men?